This year in 2024, I tried growing a new crop. Of course, I did do a video on this relatively recently, within the last month and a half or so, and I grew the Ethiopian eggplant, right? And so this is a plant that is a different species from the eggplant, but it is a close relative nonetheless. And while many people may not find it to be the tastiest crop to grow, this year I did make an interesting discovery. So the Ethiopian eggplant is more of like a warm season type crop, although I can grow it up here in the zone 6 to 7 climate, but I do of course have to start it indoors early in the season, right? Usually about like February to March. But the cool thing about this plant is it's pretty tolerant to hot and dry conditions, right? Which sometimes we can get summers up here that can match those types of conditions. And while other plants may suffer more dramatically from a lack of water and excessive heat, this particular plant does pretty well. And also I had a really huge harvest of Ethiopian eggplants off of these plants this year as well. And so now I'm just trying to figure out what to do with them. I have found some recipes that I do really like, right? Some basic things, just like roasting the Ethiopian eggplant halves. That's really good. Adding them to different types of cooked dishes, to hummus, to like extend it, right? Different types of options there. But I couldn't keep up with all of the harvesting with all the different things I had going on in life, and so some of the fruit did end up ripening on the vine, right? Typically with the Ethiopian eggplant, we harvest the fruit when it's unripe, and we will use it kind of in similar ways to eggplant. However, once the Ethiopian eggplant ripens, it turns a bright red, and it has that green stem. It looks a lot like a tomato, right? And so the fruit is commonly seen to be still edible when it's completely ripe, unlike the actual eggplant or the common eggplant. So this fruit of the Ethiopian eggplant actually becomes kind of like juicy and soft, and it kind of develops actually a little bit of sweetness and is less bitter. So I did end up collecting a few of these ripe ones, right? Some of them I did save for seed, so I got seed from that, but even at that point I had an excess of these ripe fruits, and so I was just kind of like wondering what to do with them, right? I did eat some of them raw, you know, and they're all right, but I was wondering, what if I tried drying the fruit? Would it dry effectively? What would the resulting product taste like? That kind of thing. So I decided to give it a shot. What I did was I took a ripe Ethiopian eggplant fruit and I cut it into eighths, right? So I cut it in half, quarters, and then eighths. Eighth like slices or wedges, whatever you call it. And I put those in a baking dish, and I put them in an oven on super low heat just for a little bit, just so that some of the moisture could initially kind of evaporate off, just to kind of kickstart that drying process. So I was careful not to cook it, right? I didn't want it to go up to like 170. I just wanted it to be like in the 130, 140 type range. And so I let that dry a couple of hours, and then I just put that on a shelf and let it dry the rest of the way for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. So the product actually turned out pretty good, right? So the skin of the fruit is still very bright red. I would suspect that's probably due to the lycopene content that I would think would be in there, right? It's in tomatoes and peppers and stuff, so I would think that this relative would have some lycopene in it as well, though I do not know for sure. But yeah. So the dried fruit does have a pretty good crunch. There's a little bit of like bitterness, but there's also that concentrated sweetness that the drying can produce, right? And as the fruit rehydrates in my mouth, it becomes a little less crunchy, right? But overall, it's good. It's preserved really well. It's dried out pretty thoroughly. At this point, I've just been kind of eating it out of hand, but might also be something that I might be able to add to a soup or some of these other dishes as well. And this can just be another method that helps to make this Ethiopian eggplant crop more dynamic, right, in how we can use it, and we're able to preserve it effectively for a later date, like in the winter time, when in some places lycopene rich foods may not be as abundant. So thank you so much for checking out this video on the Ethiopian eggplant, and specifically drying the ripe fruit for consumption. So this is a pretty cool crop because we can use the fruit and this plant in so many different ways, and it's a way I can make my diet more local, more nutritious, and more dynamic. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.